Good morning. Welcome to the lab. I'm Angelique. This yoga laboratory is dedicated to Uddiyana Bandha. This is a part 2. So if you did not see part 1 on Monday, you might want to watch that first. If you're joining live and didn't see part 1 on Monday, give it a go and see how you connect to the information. Let me actually give a couple of minutes before I start to get too in depth, just so that people who are joining live have a chance to link up. I think I have another minute before it is technically 8:30. If you are joining in the replay, just sit tight. It's not worth a fast forward. We'll get started in just a second. All right. Okay, so as I said, this yoga laboratory today is dedicated to Uddiyana Bandha. On Monday, we did give some sort of basic foundational information about what bandhas are, and we focused on Mula Bandha, developing awareness of it, breathing exercise to help us to strengthen our awareness and the muscular contraction of that trigger point in the pelvic floor. Today we are focusing on Uddiyana Bandha, which is it's responsive to Mula Bandha. So again, if you're not that familiar with Mula Bandha, you may want to go back and watch Monday's class first, and then check out this one, because I am going to assume that you know some of that information. Okay. Uddiyana Bandha, remember, just a quick reminder, bandhas are an energetic concept that are triggered by certain physical access points. And Uddiyana Bandha is the upward lifting, floating, expanding, lengthening lightness bandha, right? Bandhas direct energy through the body. Mula Bandha is the anchoring, grounding energy, and Uddiyana Bandha is the lengthening, lifting energy. Uddiyana cannot happen without Mula, yeah? So the physical access points, primary physical access point of Uddiyana Bandha is the transverse abdominal muscles. So these are the muscles whose fibers run sideways, and when they contract, it's like a corset drawing into the midline of the body, right? It is not the washboard abs whose fibers run up and down, and the contraction of that brings the rib cage toward the pelvis. We don't want to get caught up in those rectus abdominal muscles. We want to stay connected to the transverse abdominals, right? A secondary muscular contraction or access point for Uddiyana is the iliopsoas, a deep abdominal muscle that attaches along the back body in the vertebrae and the iliac crest, moves through the low belly and attaches to the inner thigh. So these deeper internal muscles support the work of Uddiyana Bandha, the transverse abdominals, not the rectus abdominals. This is important because if you're someone who, mostly like athletes, runners, bikers, anyone who has like sort of a regular athletic practice, sports, whatever, they tend to be very active in their rectus abdominals, right? And it can be hard to turn those off. So for those of you that find that today's exercises in Uddiyana Bandha is very challenging, this is where I want you to direct your attention first, is to figuring out how to relax those washboard stomach muscles and access some of these other abdominal muscles. Luckily, I do not have washboard abs, so they do not get in my way. They can get in the way of your Uddiyana Bandha for sure. Some breathing exercises that I have posted earlier, the breath work, part 1. Scroll back through the feed, you'll find it. There's some breathing exercises there that help you to figure out how to loosen up your abdominal muscles. So those of you that struggle with Uddiyana Bandha, you may want to do some of those breathing exercises to loosen up both the muscular tension of those muscles, but also the muscular patterning, where anytime you tune into core or ab work, it becomes those muscles. We need to refine how we use different muscle groups for yoga, right? Okay, so the first thing, let me see, did I give you enough of the anatomy? Yeah. The first place that we feel Uddiyana Bandha is going to be this low belly space, right? So Uddiyana Bandha is generally referred to as the low belly. So if you were to find your hip bones, these bony bits of the front of the pelvis, from there where they cross, that space and below, this is your Uddiyana Bandha space. Basically belly button and above, we want to allow those muscles, those transverse, all of those muscles to be relatively free for the breath to move. Now, different muscles need to get engaged for different yoga postures. So you may find that these have to get engaged, like if you were pressing up into a handstand or taking crow pose, right? You're going to use some of those upper abdominal muscles. But for the purposes of just accessing Uddiyana, we're thinking low belly, right? For like the most basic sort of access point. But Uddiyana does move around depending on what you're doing in your asana. If you're twisting, Uddiyana is going to sort of scoot around a little bit. If you have any sort of back issues, you might feel Uddiyana Bandha a little more strongly on one side or the other in order to support what's happening through the back, particularly in back bends, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is Uddiyana Kriya. We did this when I was doing the pranayama work, part 2 of the breath work series. So if you join me for that, this is just a review. Uddiyana Kriya is a precursor to Nauli, which is the sort of rolling of the abdominal muscles, right? Uddiyana Kriya is just connecting to how the muscles of the abdomen draw back into the vacuum of the abdominal cavity. It does require Mula Bandha, but we can give it a try and practice it. I'll demonstrate one time and then we'll do it together twice. Okay? So you're going to come up to stand and come into sort of a catcher stance, right? Where your arms are braced on your legs and you're supported by your skeleton, right? You don't want to have to use your muscles to stay in this position because then they're going to get in the way. So let yourself be braced on the skeletal support of the arms, right? So the pattern of this exercise is going to be to take a full inhale, take a full exhale. You can't see my face. Take a full inhale, take a full exhale with empty breath, like empty breath. Mula Bandha engages to support the seal at the base of the body. And then you draw the low belly muscles into the vacuum that you've created with that empty breath, right? And you hold that as long as you can. And then you release that and then inhale, right? So this is done with empty breath retention. So do your best. Don't hold it to past the point of comfort, right? You only hold it as long as you feel comfortable holding, right? So I'm going to demonstrate first. Again, it's inhale, exhale completely. Mula Bandha, soften the abdominal muscles, right? If those washboard abs are tight, it won't work. Soften the muscles, draw it in, hold. Release the belly, then inhale. I can't talk while I do it, so just observe. Yeah? Let's try it together. So standing up, I'm going to turn sideways this time. Back here. So catcher stance, right? Full inhale, full exhale. Hold your exhale. Engage Mula Bandha. Soften the belly. Scooping in, pulling those muscles into the vacuum you created. Hold it as long as you can. Release the belly. Then inhale. Inhale. Exhale, completely exhale. and then inhale, right? Okay, now I'm going to talk you through it this time. So from the side view, you can see that at that moment that you draw the muscles in, you do round the spine a bit. You push into your legs, you know, sort of like that cat-cow moment. You push into your legs and let the spine round as you draw those muscles back into the vacuum of the abdomen. Okay, so your turn on the third one. I'll talk you through it. So catch your stance. Inhale completely. Exhale completely. Completely empty the breath. Empty, empty, empty. When it's empty, engage Mula Bandha, pelvic floor. Soften the abdominal muscles. Scoop them in. Push your hands onto your knees. Let your back round. Pull those muscles into the body. Pull them in. Scoop and push, push, push. Release the muscles so that it be soft. Then inhale. How'd that go? It can take practice, right? If you don't have Mula Bandha, you won't create the energy seal that creates the vacuum that allows you to draw in. If you don't hold your breath, there won't be a vacuum. You have to hold it on empty, right? It's hard to train that. If you don't soften your abdominal muscles, they won't be able to draw in. They'll just be a wall, right? So those are the three things to check in on. Mula Bandha, empty breath, soft abdominals, rectus abdominals in particular, right? This is an excellent exercise to do daily, 3 times daily, every morning. The best time to do it is before you've ingested anything, like before water, before coffee, before anything, and after you've gone to the bathroom. So get up, go to the bathroom, maybe do your 3 Uddiyanas while your coffee is brewing, and then continue on with your day, right? Before you ingest anything, because you want to be empty. And this stimulates movement in the digestive system, so it can also help you to become more regular in the morning. Yay, we all like regularity. So that's Uddiyana Kriya, and it just helps you to develop awareness and strength through the muscles of Uddiyana. Now that degree of Uddiyana does not happen in asana, right? Number one, because it requires a retention, an exhale retention, and we don't do that during asana. We want the breath to continue. But you can get a sense of that same thing in your asanas. And in particular asanas, it's actually quite easy to find. So one asana that is very easy to find is in your down dog. So in your down dog position, right? If you relax, so if you're holding your abdominal muscles strong, they're going to create a wall. And it makes it hard to breathe. If I engage those muscles in a strong way, I can't take full and easy breaths. So if you relax the belly and take full and easy breaths, then as you exhale, as you're emptying your breath, let the low belly pull into that space. I hope you guys can see. Let your low belly pull into that space, that emptiness you've created in the internal body by exhaling. Right? And then it can just hang there because you're upside down, your internal organs are falling towards your ribs, right? So there's an automatic vacuum in the low belly, and you can just let the muscles along the front of the abdomen just sort of scoop back into the pelvis. Yeah? And feel like the muscles are scooping back. Whatever the softness on top of the muscles does, don't even worry about that. You want to feel like the muscles are hollowing back into the bowl of the pelvis, right? Yeah, this is an easy place. Now again, this won't happen if you don't have Mula Bandha, because Mula Bandha seals the energy at the root so that you can create this vacuum in the body. Another place that this happens is in your Trini position, the third position of sun salutations, especially if you're able to give weight into the hands. So if you have tight hamstrings and you're not able to get your hands flat to the floor, try sometimes bending the knees, however far you need to bend to be able to anchor the hands on the floor. And then with your hands on the floor, so pretend, your knees can be bent here, but I'm going to straighten so you can see. With your hands on the floor, push the floor away. Do you see how my belly lifts in as I push? So this is similar to that catcher's push on the knee, right? So give weight to the hands and then push the floor away. And these low belly muscles will respond to that energy, that downward push, by rebounding and lifting up. Uddiyana is a response to Mula. And our hands have Mula energy as well, Mula Bandha energy, pressing down into the floor. We find a rebounding upward energy into our low belly, right? And my breath is free. Everything above the belly button is free to move with the breath. There's no restriction to the breath there. It's just the muscles drawing into that emptiness that's created, right? And then I just want to go over two more things about how this works for you, like in a forward fold. In a seated forward fold, Dandasana, the first seated posture of primary series, helps to set this up. So you're connecting to Mula Bandha underneath. And then you use the energy drawing in, right, the low belly muscles drawing into the spine to lengthen. Uddiyana is lengthening and upward. Yeah, as it draws in, it bounces off of the base and lengthens energy up through the spine. This same energy happens as you fold forward. Mula Bandha, grounding energy. We draw energy back into the low belly, and then we're able to lengthen out of the spine. Now that doesn't mean we're back bending here, right? We're not engaging the back body. We're just letting energy come back and scoop into the low belly so it can spill forward. I always visualize forward folds like the water on the beach, yeah? So if you watch the waves on a beach, you see that the water pulls back into the ocean before it comes up and over, and then it dumps onto the sand, but it doesn't just stop there, right? The water doesn't just stop at that point. It dumps onto the sand and then slides up the beach. And it pulls, and then there's water pulling back underneath it at the same time, up and over, spilling, and then sliding up. The energy of the legs is the water pulling back. Uddiyana Bandha, scooping of the low belly to send energy forward and back up the beach. And this cycling energy is happening throughout your forward folds. Yeah? Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha. Lastly, Uddiyana Bandha is a support for back bend work. Right? Uddiyana Bandha is what creates the space in the vertebrae as you arc, so that the energy of the back bend doesn't jam in. We can find this in our upward facing dog, right? If you move into up dog without Uddiyana, there is a tendency for the energy of the back bend to drop back down into itself, right? If we find Uddiyana Bandha, this drawing in through the low belly, maintaining Mula Bandha, we send the back bend up and away into the arc instead of down and in. Do you see the difference? Down and in, up and away. It feels different in my back. And I'm sure it's very subtle, but check in with how you're feeling the energy of your back bends. It should be moving out and away. That is the function of Uddiyana, space and reach, away from the anchor of Mula. So feel that in your up dog. You can set it up while you're on your belly, engage Mula Bandha, scoop the belly into the body, right? The belly muscles, as if you're trying to pull your belly button off the floor. It may not leave the floor, but feel like that's the intention. Keep that lift there and send it up and out along the spine. Yeah? So my belly is pulling in as it's stretching instead of just opening and letting the back body shorten. Right? This takes a lot of practice, a lot of awareness, and bandhas are a thing that develop constantly, right? You never know all there is to know about what the bandhas are doing in the body. No, I got that wrong. Bandhas your awareness of bandhas develops based on the asana that you're doing, right? Each asana gives you more information about bandhas and how they function in your body and how you can connect to them. So continue to practice. Ask yourself how the bandhas are functioning in each asana. And if you're optimizing that, right? Mula Bandha breathing that we did in part 1 on Monday can help you to develop awareness and strength. Uddiyana Kriya can help you develop awareness and strength. And then check in within your asana practice how they're functioning, how you're using them, are you connecting to them? Yeah? I am available for any questions that you might have. This is a concept, a practice that, like I said, it evolves. So allow yourself to gain awareness of it and information as you go. It doesn't mean that you had it wrong in the beginning. It just means that you're refining your understanding and developing your understanding. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me for Bandhas. We can talk about this forever and ever and ever. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or hit me up in the direct messages. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. This is donation based. If you're able to donate, please do. And Friday morning, I will be back at 7:30 Eastern Time for a primary series group practice. So I'll see you then. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week yet for the lab. If you have any suggestions or any topics you want me to touch on, leave your suggestions in the comments. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day. Be well. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.